What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Trank. So today I'm going to be doing a quick video on one way that I use 3D printing with my woodworking. I've got this small entry bench at the front door here, and as you can see it can't carry any shoes. So what I want to do is add a little tray compartment to the bottom to hold shoes, and we're going to do that using a 3D printer. So stay tuned. So this project starts with the 3D design phase. Now I'm not going to go over in detail how to do this part. If you want to see that in the future, you can always let me know. But essentially what I did is I measured two different diameters on the tapered leg at a known distance from each other. I could then use that to make a replica of where the leg would sit and then make this simple part that would go around it in order to line up where the hole that I need to drill into the leg is going to go. Now, one important thing to see is that I actually made this into two components that will bolt together. The reason for that is that as it was, it would be very difficult to print on a 3D printer like the one I have and get a good result. But when I split it into two pieces like this, it's going to be really easy to print, and I can just use a threaded machine screw with a couple heat inserts, which we'll see in a minute, to put this together. So from there I can load it into the printer. Now here I'm using a Prusa MK3S, and this is a really great printer if you guys are new to 3D printing. It is a bit pricey, but it's a really reliable printer and gets the job done. Now the reason I wanted to make this video is if you look online you might think that 3D printers are just good for making useless knickknacks, and while they can be true and people can enjoy that, I really do use it for very useful reasons in my wood shop, and so this is just going to be one of the reasons to highlight that. Now, as you can see, it took about 8 hours to print, and then I can just pull it off the print tray and the parts pop right off, and no issues with this print. Now, in order to put the two components together, I'm going to be using some threaded inserts. So these are called heat inserts here, and I'm using a heat insert press that I designed and made. And what this does is it just ensures that those heat inserts go in perfectly plumb or perpendicular to the component. Now on this note, if you guys want to see how I designed and built this heat insert press, essentially what it is a variation of different ones I've seen online that is much more robust and much more tightly toleranced to give really accurate results. So if you guys want to see that and get some plans for that, be sure to leave a comment below. Now circling back to putting this jig together, what I've got here is a little sleeve bearing, it's called, and what this is sized to fit exactly a 1/2 inch ID, which is going to perfectly guide the 1/2 inch drill bit that I use to drill the hole into the leg. You can see we get that nice press fit into the 3D printed part, which is one of the more satisfying things I like to do with 3D printing. And then from there I can just add these two little panhead machine screws, which are going to be what holds everything together. So just like that, this little jig is done, and we just used a 3D printer and a couple locally sourced parts from the hardware store to make a really useful jig. So now you can see how this thing is actually going to work. What I do is I have it lined up with the bottom or the top, however you want to look at it, of the bench, and what it does is just offsets that hole at about 7 inches from the top. And then we've got this nice sleeve which is going to guide the drill bit to make sure we get a perfect drill into the side of the leg. Now when drilling this hole, I was just careful on the exit to make sure I didn't blow out the wood too bad on the backside. I did have some painter's tape in place to make sure to try and eliminate the tear out, but inherently you get a little bit, but overall it was a pretty good result. And I just went ahead and did those holes on each of the 4 legs. These are going to take 1/2 inch dowels that are going to go across the width of the bench, which are then in turn going to accept 3/8 inch dowels, which will then hold the shoes. So here are the 1/2 inch stock. I'm just using some, I think they were birch dowels, just whatever I had on hand. And right here I'm just scribing a quick line to line up where I need to drill the holes. Now at first I thought that maybe drilling the holes into these 1/2 inch dowels was going to be a bit of a task to do correctly, but as we'll see in a second here, I just laid them out and brought them over to the drill press and used it in this little V-groove jig that I put together, and that holds it centered and in place, and it was really easy to drill these holes. Now similarly to drilling the holes into the legs, what I'm doing here is just being extra careful when drilling these to make sure I don't blow through the back of it too bad, because it will be easy to get tear out. Sometimes what I do is just use the brad point bit to just barely exit the back side and then flip it around and continue the hole from the back. Now once that's all done, I can bring it over to the crosscut sled to get everything cut to length. And again, I'm using those 1/2 inch dowels for the main component, which are then going to house these 3/8 diameter dowels for holding the shoes in place. Now in retrospect, I would have maybe upsized all the dowels a little bit just to make the whole shelf a little bit stronger, but this was a first attempt at this and I didn't really know what I was doing, so it works just fine, but it could be a little sturdier in the future. I go ahead and sand off the rough outer surface of these just to clean up the look a little bit, and then I can go ahead and do a test fit and see how it goes together. So you can see here how we have one of those with the main holes on each side, which go all the way through each tapered leg, and then I can come through with the 3/8 dowels, which will then connect to form the shoe rack. I do go ahead and mark these long at the beginning and then just trim them to length once I know exactly where they're going to protrude. Doing it exactly the first time with the tape measure is pretty much impossible, so I found this to be the best way to do it. But with that, that pretty much wraps up this project. I could go ahead and get the other cross members just friction fit into place. I didn't use any glue or anything because everything was pretty tight as is and it went together just fine. But I hope that you found in this video just one useful way or application that you can use 3D printing with your woodworking. It's a really useful tool to have in your disposal, and along with that you'll need to learn 3D modeling and other things, but it's really beneficial if you know how to use these things, and I use it all the time. So hope you guys enjoyed this. This was just a quick little project, but I thought it was kind of fun, and it ended up turning out really great and actually working really well to get these shoes off the ground. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, be sure to give a thumbs up and leave a comment below, as well as subscribe to my channel so we can really get this channel growing. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.